So I'm going to share a bunch of kind of random things that I've learned over the years and just a bunch of different experiences, and they all kind of center around this idea of never stop making. I think it's really important for all of us to be making things and to never stop doing that. So first, a little background. I started this website called Threadless.com about 12 years ago as a hobby. I was attending art school at the time, and I just wanted to make cool stuff with my friends. The way Threadless works is artists around the world submit designs to Threadless.com. Our community scores them on a scale of 1 to 5, and we print the best ones and sell them through various channels. And it started with T-shirts, but we do a lot of other products besides T-shirts too. This is where it all started in my 350 square foot apartment in Chicago, just in the corner. I put my computer up against the door so I would never leave. And this is our first logo. It was, terrible. It's our first website. It's really ugly. But today, 12 years later, this is still what we do. We make cool stuff together with our friends. The group of friends is a lot larger. We've had about a little over 2 million people sign up and participate, and over 200,000 people actually submit designs to our website. But the spirit remains. Threadless exists as kind of like a platform for artists to create things, for us to make opportunities for artists. We've printed thousands of artists and paid out millions and millions of dollars to artists, and that's what we're there for, is to create these opportunities for them. So one of the first things I'd like to talk about is that I believe there's a universal human need to make things. Jeff Howe, which is the guy who coined the term crowdsourcing, he used to be an editor at Wired magazine. He coined the term like 4 years into our business in 2004. And he wrote a little piece for us in our book that we came out with on our 10-year anniversary. And he wrote about following this festival around the U.S. called the Vans Warped Tour, and how he witnessed all these kids just writing poetry, songs, creating videos, animations, doing tattoos, all these things. And they weren't doing it for the money. They weren't making any money doing this, and they weren't even doing it to become professional poets or professional tattoo artists or anything. They were just doing it because they wanted to make things. And the quote that Jeff says is that making stuff is the most joyful occupation in which we ever engage. It's the closest we come to God. And I'm not a very religious person, but somehow that stuck with me. Even when it's making a stack of grilled cheese sandwiches for a group of people, it can be, it's just a really great process. I'm pretty self-taught on everything. I believe in learning how to make by making. I remember, one of the first examples I can think back to is when I was in high school, and cassette tapes were kind of the way you listen to music. And I remember making my first mixtape, and I didn't really know how to do it. And you put 2 tapes in, and you're hitting record, and you messed up so many times, and then finally you figure it out. I built a tree fort when I was growing up just by putting a board on the tree and nailing it in, and I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't a carpenter. We ended up building this 3-story tall tree fort with a spiral staircase going around it, just one board at a time. And even in the computers, I learned HTML by clicking View Source in the web browser. I learned Photoshop by opening it up and clicking every single button in the program, trying to figure out what it does. And do it sometime. Your computer will not explode if you do this. You will learn a lot. Just click every button in every program you have. Another thing I like to do is make myself uncomfortable by doing things like speaking in public. And I feel like when you can only be a beginner once. This was a post actually that was on 37 Signals recently that is this same idea. But that first time when you dive in and do something that you've never done before, I feel like that's when you're the most creative and innovative, because that's when you don't yet know how it's supposed to be done. Once you're an expert, you don't really have anything much more to offer because you already know it all. So step outside your comfort zone and approach a situation with fresh eyes, offer a new perspective. You'll either learn something yourself or maybe teach somebody else a new way of thinking things who thought they were the experts. I mean, the way I started Threadless was by making myself extremely uncomfortable. I posted this design to the forum for this event that was taking place in London, and I won. It was a t-shirt competition for the official event t-shirt, and I was really inspired by that. So 1 hour later after winning, I posted a thread on the forum saying I would make t-shirts from the best designs that people post in this discussion, and that was the first Threadless. I started Threadless 1 hour after coming up with the idea, and those first 5 shirts that came out of that first thread are the first 5 products if you go to our site today. And I had no idea how I was going to do this. Like, I didn't know how to print t-shirts. I didn't know how I was going to ship orders. I didn't know how I was going to charge credit cards, anything. And I just threw myself into the deep end, made myself really uncomfortable, and figured it out as I went. Another thing is, when you make, a lot of times there's unintended consequences. You never really know how people are going to react to the things you make, or how it could maybe snowball out of control. But if you don't do it, nothing's going to happen, so might as well. I mean, my hobby turned into what I've done for a living over the past decade. I mean, this was my apartment where we were shipping orders out in the beginning, and now we have a 50,000 square foot warehouse in Chicago, and it was all born from a hobby, though. This wasn't even supposed to be a business. It's just, you put the thing out into the world and you don't know what's going to happen. Another part of this is I believe in prioritizing your hobbies. Pretty much anything I've done in my career has been like flipping around. Like in high school, I got a job as a web developer, and the logical next step would have been to go into computer science or something like that when I went to college, but instead I was kind of writing graffiti on the side, and that was my hobby. So instead I went to art school, and that then became my career. I started getting into art, and then I started learning programming and development on the side. And whatever your hobbies are, you should really definitely prioritize that as the main thing you should be working on. You Can't Make Me. This is one that's kind of about like doing it for yourself. It's good to have a creative release from your work, your life, your wife, your kids, whatever it is. Have something in your life that you do and you really do well, and you're doing it simply because you want to. I think in today's culture, it's really easy to just become like a passive viewer of the world. There's so much stuff on the internet to look at, but it's up to you to define your legacy. I mean, when your children ask what kind of people their parents were, do you want them to say, "Oh, my dad was really good at watching YouTube videos"? I think it's important to have something that is about you, and it's something that you're adding to the world. Make with your bare hands. The other day, I went out in my backyard with my daughter, and I built an outdoor fire pit out of brick and mortar, and it was my first time ever using brick and mortar, and it turned out pretty ugly, but I built something with my bare hands, and it felt really good. There's the fire pit with my kids, and then afterwards, I built this little tree fort for my son. We sit around and roast s'mores, and I don't know, I think it's also really important. A lot of us probably work on computers and get away from the computer, do something that's real. Kind of reminds you why we're here. Like, I remember, I haven't done this in a while, but like stretching your own canvas and painting. Just if you go camping or anything, forget your tent and maybe try to build a shelter instead. I try to do these things as often as I can. Another thing, this doodle, make, try, sketch, tinker, get it out of your head. I think a lot of you probably have ideas of things you want to bring to life. Maybe you've even had them for years. Of things, I have this great idea of something to do, and it just stays in your head. It's so hard to take that first step, because I think a lot of people feel like they have to have the whole next Facebook or next Mona Lisa or the next great novel figured out in their head before they even start. But I think the most important thing you can do is just start, like, physically touching your pen to a piece of paper and start jotting down those ideas and putting together the plan. I find that this is actually the best way that I get the bad ideas out of my head, because they'll stick in there, and until I actually start working on them, I never realize how bad they are. And then it'll get out of your head, and you can move on to the next thing. This is one that I have some trouble with right now that I'm really trying to work on. Make and make and make till you're dizzy, because it seems like making things is the best fuel to continue making things, because once you get started, you can't stop. So try to just keep going at it as much as you possibly can. This is a great challenge. A lot of artists do this within the Threadless community, making something cool every single day. And my friend does this. He writes something every single day, writes something meaningful every day. Whatever it is that you want to do, just challenge yourself to make it up, make something every day. I've been challenging myself to do this with my kids. Just get down and, get out the construction paper and make something. I have this weird story about this corner in my neighborhood, or back in my hometown, where people would just throw shoes out on this corner for like decades. There's just been, you drive past this corner in my hometown and there's just shoes. I mean, hundreds of pairs of shoes on the corner. So my wife and I are working on building like a visitor center for that, and we're going to make up a story for why these shoes exist here, and then people will be able to pull over and read about it, and it'll be totally fake, but these are a few things that some of our community members have made. He just does these little craft projects in his house and takes a photo of them and posts them up on his Flickr account. He just cut a banana and put it on the table. Or this notebook paper, he made the lines out of thread. Or this is a fatal paper airplane crash. But that's another thing. If you do make something cool every day, make sure you post it for other people to see and react to. This is a good one, making with friends. Don't forget the power of collaboration. You could be an entrepreneur looking for a co-founder, a musician looking for other members of your band. Maybe you're a writer and you're looking for an illustrator for your book. Whatever the case may be. I found the best way to find these people is to first make friends and then make things with your friends. And don't have an agenda starting out. You're just this is how you get to know whether or not this person is the right person you want to go into business with or go into, into music with, whatever the case may be. I first met my co-founder on this forum online where we would get into these experimental JavaScript battles with each other, where I wrote a script to make the browser window just go in circles, and then I sent it to him, and he figured out how to make it go in like a star shape, and we would just bounce these things back and forth, and then that's how I met the guy, and then we ended up starting this business together, and we wouldn't have known that we'd be able to do that if we wouldn't have first started out getting in JavaScript battles. Finding opportunities for things you make is pretty neat. Like, the internet is so empowering for people who make things. I mean, at the very least, you can share what you've made by posting it up to whatever it is, Tumblr, Twitter, Flickr, Facebook, Instagram, any of these places. But also there's things you can do productively with the things you make, either if it's that you're making jewelry, put it up for sale on Etsy. Or if you're trying to turn an underground tunnel into a garden in New York, put it up on Kickstarter and see if people will fund it and help you make it real. Or there's even foodsy.com where you can if you bake bread for your hobby, then you can put it up, like put food up for sale online and have your own. Maybe that'll turn into something. Or there's Threadless too. If you're an illustrator, you can always put it up there. But it's really neat how these people who are hobbyists and make things can actually find productive opportunities for the things they make to a global audience too. Before, like Etsy, for example, if you were making jewelry like that before the internet, your only option was maybe to go to a local craft fair, and that's where you put it up for sale. But just to wrap this all up, I just think a typical problem in all of our lives is, you get locked into a routine, maybe you get too comfortable in your life, or things are stagnant, you get stuck in a rut, and I think making things is the best way to get out of that. Even, especially when if something bad happens in your life, that's the best time to make things too, because some of the most creative stuff comes out of those kind of turmoil situations. So this was a little strange topic, I guess, maybe compared to the rest of the things, but I think it can apply to a lot of what everybody's working on here, and I hope you guys go out and make things. One other thing, thanks to all the Threadless community, they're the ones who made the little make illustrations from a blog I posted on the site. So thanks, everybody.